Hi, this is Mr. Goldberg, and this is a short video on how to annotate a reading. So this is actually the reading that you are doing for class on Tuesday, and we'll be talking with the author of this piece, Jillian Keenan, if you're available during your first lunch in room 117. But the title of the article is Kick Andrew Jackson Off the $20 Bill. And the subtitle is that the 7th president engineered genocide. He should be vilified, not honored. So this is from Slate magazine, and it's written by Jillian Keenan. So we'd want to find out a little bit about who she is and what the deal is with Slate magazine. So let's take a second and do that. So if you Google her or click on the link from Slate magazine, this is Jillian Keenan's webpage, and she's a writer, journalist, and Shakespeare geek in New York City. So she is, in fact, a freelance writer and is a pretty credible source, but she's not a historian. So just keep that in mind as we look through her article. As for the publication itself, Slate, if you go to the About page on Slate's website, it's a daily magazine founded in 1996. It's online, and they do a lot with current events, and they've won a number of awards. So again, a reasonably credible source here. So as we start reading the article, we see that her public high school wasn't the best, but they did have an amazing history teacher, Mr. L, who brought the country's story to life, and he taught us about the Indian Removal Act. So you may have studied this before, but if not, you should go ahead and look up Indian Removal Act. You can just type it into Google, and there are a bunch of different resources about it here. I'm not going to read one to you necessarily, but you get the basics of what was going on, passed in 1830, and there's actually a pretty good map over here. And it's about what it sounds like. We're removing Indians from this area, and this area up into what will become the state of Oklahoma for the most part. And again, this is happening around 1830. So now that we know what the Indian Removal Act is, we might look up also the Trail of Tears, and you can find details about that. And then you should probably look up some of the different groups here. They list the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Muskogee Creeks, the Chickasaws, and the Seminoles. That's not too many. So you don't have to look up all of them, but look up a few. Try to get yourself more empathizing with the folks who are in this article. And they're taken off their ancestral lands, and when she learned about this, she and her classmates were stricken. If you don't know that vocab word, you could look that one up. It would take all of 2 seconds. So, seriously affected by an undesirable condition or unpleasant feeling, the pilot landed the stricken aircraft. You get the idea. So now we're picking up here. It was unfathomable that thousands of Native American men, women, and children were forced to march west, sometimes freezing to death or starving because U.S. soldiers wouldn't let them bring extra food or blankets. It was hard to hear that the Choctaw Nation lost up to 1/3 of its population on the death march. That's a lot. We'd want to check that fact. You could probably do that. It was disorienting to learn that what amounted to an ethnic cleansing had come at the insistence of an American president. But then it was lunchtime, and we pulled out our wallets in the cafeteria. Andrew Jackson was there, staring out from every $20 bill. We'd been carrying around portraits of a mass murderer all along and had no idea. So up to this point, what she's doing is just sort of telling a story, and now she's taking a position. There's nothing earlier you could disagree with. They did pull out their wallets. Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill. But her thesis, what she's saying, is that Andrew Jackson engineered a genocide. He shouldn't be on our currency. And so that's, you could say, no, I think he should be on our currency. You could try to say, sorry about that, you could try to say he didn't engineer a genocide, It depends how you define genocide, I suppose, but he certainly is not revered by Native Americans, and we'd want to get some more details about that. But that's the thesis, that he shouldn't be on the $20 bill. And then we'll read this last paragraph that she has here. Symbols matter. Many people, for example, are inspired by the symbolic implications of Jackson's path to the presidency. He was born 2 weeks after his father's death to a widowed immigrant mother, and despite his poverty and lack of education, reached the highest office in the land. So that is a powerful story. But the more precise telling of how Jackson climbed the American socioeconomic ladder is also a precise telling. Part of the way he raised money was being a slave trader. You click on that link if you want and get her details there, and accumulated much of his fortune that way. In fact, Jackson later pursued his Indian removal policies specifically so that stolen lands could be used to expand cotton farming and slavery, she says. Even in this context, our seventh president falls short. Even in historical context. So they're saying, yeah, other people at the time held slaves as well, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, but she's saying that his racist policies were controversial even in his own time. After the Indian Removal Act narrowly passed Congress, the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional. We'll study more how Jackson ignored that decision. And then in 1838, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he's a famous author. If you haven't heard of him before, you should Google Ralph Waldo Emerson, get a sense of some of what he did. He wrote a passionate letter, you can click on this to read it, calling Jackson's policies a crime that really deprives us, as well as the Cherokees, of a country. For how could we call the conspiracy that should crush these poor Indians our government, or the land that was cursed by their parting and dying imprecations our country anymore? If you're like me, you've never heard the word imprecation before, but you can look it up quite easily, and it's a spoken curse. And so if it's a dying imprecation, this is a curse that someone does the last thing before I die, I curse you. So I'm showing you how I'm not just reading the article here, I'm reading it and looking up things and maybe making some notes on the side of it. And that's what you should do as well when you read the entire article here. So let me show you what an annotated version might look like. So one thing you can do is highlight the thesis. I'm saying this is the thesis of this particular piece. And then down here when it says he went from poverty and lack of education to the highest office in the land, just put it in your own words. So Jackson becoming president is a rags to riches story, if that's what you think. So your writing should be on the document so that when I look at what you've done to engage with it, I can see more than just highlighting, but some of your words in there. So look up some words if you don't know them, and look up some terms like Indian Removal Act and Trail of Tears, and just show what you have done to engage with the text. And we will see what those look like on Tuesday. All right, thanks for watching.